And we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first 3 Grots in a Vox live stream.
Hopefully we're live.
Hopefully we're live. Is this like last time you said we were live, John, when we were just sitting here like bloody idiots while you hadn't clicked the go live button?
Yeah, and I had a horrible echo there for a second because I was watching the stream to check that we are actually live. But we are live now. If there's any audio issues with any of us, or you can't hear anything or anything like that, please give us a shout out in the chat and we'll make it work. I'm obviously here with Tony and Mark as always, and I see a bunch of people already in chat, so thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the preview of Chapter Approved 2022, which was leaked on Goonhammer, was it right, Tony?
Sort of. So the history behind this is there was a GW event, which was the culmination of all of their tournaments in the US that had been taking place in 2021. And at that event, they previewed 2 of the missions that are going to be in the new Chapter Approved 2022. And they also, at the event, showed off what the new secondaries are going to be in the Chapter Approved 2022, which Goonhammer got a hold of all of that information for what the changes are going to be to the existing secondaries. Well, we do have accents. That's why, Dusty. I mean, come on. Sorry, there you go. And yeah, so Goonhammer, whom we've stolen almost all this information off of, or at least borrowed, let's say, has got all the changes and the updates.
We shamelessly ripped it off.
Yeah,
we shamelessly ripped it off, let's be honest.
Absolutely. And this is the best part. I found out today that White Dwarf 472, which is out, it goes on pre-order this weekend to be out the week after, I think, comes with a set of card secondaries in it, which is actually the secondaries from the new Chapter Approved.
That's quite nice.
So if everybody wants all of the new secondaries for themselves in a nice little handy reference cards, buy the new White Dwarf that are out, and you get all these new faction-specific secondaries that haven't got them yet.
I was going to say, because I saw today there were 7 new faction-specific secondaries, so that's in addition to the new White Dwarf secondary card.
That's inside the new White Dwarf that isn't yet available unless you subscribe to it on a monthly basis, which is how some people already know what's in them.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, Science Dad, Brad, Lord, Mike, Mulgan, Mark Jackson, and Reziel. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing? Thanks for being here.
We've got important things to cover first. Look, today I've got some really potentially fucking appalling beer. Check this out. So we're going to start the evening with guava beer.
Hazy Jane guava beer.
Do you know what? Hazy Jane's okay, though. I mean, I like Brewdog.
The can looks transparent.
Give it guava.
Guava is questionable. You know, Brewdog's made in Fraserburgh, which is like half an hour drive from where I am.
Well, you're going to enjoy tonight because I've got like 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, top northeast of Scotland is where Brewdog is made, or that's where the main factory is.
So if we all convince Tony to drink them really, really quickly, he could be sit there squirming and busting for the second half of the stream going, it needs to be over, I need to go for pee.
It'll definitely happen. It always happens.
You've done well at hiding it before now, then that's fair.
I've done a pretty good job of hiding it before, but you don't know all the empty, well, I say they were empty Lucozade bottles that are lying around on the floor. As every travelling salesman knows, the Lucozade bottle is the most important thing to have lying around in your car when you're in a traffic jam.
So we were discussing whether or not to bring this up and talk about this in the stream, and we thought somebody would bring it up. And thank you, Miguel, for bringing up this new Future Reavers players thing from the Warhammer community article that came out today. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I was more excited about the new Hammerhead gun. Not the Hammerhead. Storm Surge that can do 24 damage, and it's pretty decent. It's all right.
So that Knight Titan can do 24 damage in a turn already, and that's been out for years. So sure. I don't care.
You don't care?
Doesn't bother me.
I mean, some people are getting excited because someone on our Discord has just commissioned me to paint that for them. So I'm not going to name names, Cat Hat Lurker. But
okay. Well, just be ready to play a Storm Surge next week as well, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
The Storm Surge cannon does not ignore invols, though. You are correct, Rez. Yeah, or at least it hasn't told us that they have. And then when the Tau Codex comes out, there's a stratagem that says this one shot can ignore invols. Then everybody can lose their shit, and I'll be justified over it, and that'll be fine. Yeah, but
I reckon it's going to be shit anyway.
You think?
The gun's has got more than 24 inches. It's like 72-inch range or something. Those Magna las cannons.
The mega powerful version of the shot's got fairly short range. It does have a strap which makes it take a lot less incoming damage, but I still reckon you'd be better off if you were just looking for damage output, taking 3 of these hammerheads or something. I really don't think it's got one mega gun on it, but it's still all in one platform. It takes 2 turns to deploy its anchors, basically. So it's going to be stuck up a corner for you to kill.
It's a super heavy. It's going to be
super heavy,
400 points or something stupid with all the special Wazzy upgrades and guns. Whatever.
I think we could get murdered by them, but I don't know if it's going to be doing the murdering.
As we start talking about Eldar leaks, we're going to be here literally all night because I know bloody everything as far as all of the Eldar leaks so far.
And they look like they're going to be fucking broken.
They do. They've been described as Drukhari upon release level of quality with Sisters of Battle style miracle dice mechanic.
Oh, that's going to piss Reziel off. I can't see the chat at the moment, but I bet he's going to go ape shit over that.
They work slightly differently to miracle dice, but they basically are the same. Dire Avengers in elites, but they can still be OBSEC if you get a Exarch upgrade, and they can do actions while shooting, while they're being elites. So, does it really matter?
Broken. You heard it here. Probably not first, but you certainly heard it here.
These are the leaks. A supposed playtest copy, so they might not be accurate. God knows. So, yeah, whatever.
And new codexes at this point are just really scary, I guess. Let's just prepare to be scared by any new codex that comes out.
I don't know, the new Custodes codex, which I think we're going to talk about next week, but isn't looking outrageously scary at the moment. They have lost a lot of what made them really scary. They are very heavily reliant on damage too.
And by next week, what Tony actually means is 3 weeks' time from today, it'll be screened, that one.
So yeah, they're not too scary. The new Genestealer cults, what we're seeing from them, they can be quite scary against some armies, but they are still a little bit squishy. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to play, though. I think
if they're all about deep strike mechanics, then you can whip your infiltrators back out.
Yeah, that's what was it last week when 2022 when I said infiltrators, they're going to be more important with all this deep strike and shenanigans going on.
You did say that, yeah, and infiltrators are very, very good against deep strikers.
We'll have to wait and see. We don't know what.
Do any other factions get 12-inch deep strike denial, or is it only Marines that get that? Is there a rule that gives the 12-inch denial?
I'm not sure of anybody else off the top of my head.
No,
and it's not just deep strike either. It's any time you pick a model up and replace them on the board through a teleportation or movement or any other such thing.
Yeah, anything that classes as reinforcements, right?
That's why I like it, because there's a lot of Grey Knights with their teleporting shenanigans going on where I am. So stopping that Grey Knight, Dread Knight, Grandmaster plonking himself down and going for a charge when you try and shoot him is quite important.
James, I believe it would do, yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it would work against that. So,
yeah, it usually overrides anything. The deep strike denial of infiltrators.
I'd have to go through the rare rules and double check, but I'm pretty sure it would override it.
Okay, awesome. So, do we want to start talking about chapter?
What we're here to talk about?
2022.
All right, let's see. I can't
What's
remember
the first page, Tony.
The first thing we are looking at is secondaries.
Right. So changes to the existing secondary missions.
Right, hold on. There's a really important thing in chat. Brad has just asked Tony, what is your address, because he wants to send you some decent beer.
All right, let's just say where we live in public.
Brad, you need to message Tony directly on Discord, and he'll tell you where to send reasonably decent beer. Sorry.
If you think the guava beer was bad, wait till you see the last one that I've got lined up for tonight.
Do we have links to the Blood Angel Discord in here? I have no idea. Is that something we're missing?
I could put a link to our Discord in the chat. That wouldn't be a problem, or in the comment section of the video. I can do that right now. Okay, sorry. Continue what you were going to say.
Battlefield Supremacy then. No changes to Stranglehold, no real changes to behind enemy lines. The big one is engage on all fronts. You're still scoring 2 points at the end of your turn for having units in 3 table quarters, or 3 for having units in every table quarter. But the big difference is it's got to have at least 3 models or be a vehicle or monster model. This is going to be a big change to people using that one last guy left alive or a
Two
couple of
company
company
vets
veterans.
won't count for it anymore. A single lictor model won't count for it anymore. A single attack bike won't count for it anymore. But a single land speeder will.
So does a lictor not count as a monster then?
No.
Really?
No.
They're fucking ginormous.
Well, they're not monsters. They don't have the monster keyword.
Let's say that again. So
monsters. Sorry,
a
lictors aren't
land
monsters.
speeder will count, but an attack bike will not.
Because an attack bike is not a vehicle,
It's not of the vehicle.
or a monster.
Interesting. So we already thinking about land speeders possibly.
It makes land speeders more interesting for scoring engage on all fronts.
I like land speeders anyway.
Yeah.
They're a lot better than ATVs. ATVs are shit.
The lictors have the infantry keyword. They definitely do not have the monster keyword or the vehicle keyword.
Well, I'm not surprised they haven't got the vehicle keyword, but I am genuinely surprised they haven't got the monster keyword. Because a lot of like Tau battle suits have got the monster keyword.
Well, they got those bloody huge hulking stealth suits, and then they got the tiny wee little itty bitty stealth
What's
suits.
more monstrous? The thing with the big stabby arms that pops up and eats people? Or
Yeah, Highland's got a good point. Land Speeder Storm. Actually, that's the point. Land Speeder Storm.
Oh yeah, they're really cheap.
They're dirt cheap. They're an assault transport, so they can move, and then the scouts inside can get out. So a Land Speeder Storm could move. What is it? 18 inches?
I want to say 14. I want to say 14, but I might be wrong on that.
I'm pretty sure it's more than that. So a Land Speeder Storm
I'll pull up its
could
profile.
move 18 inches. Yeah. Then the scouts inside could get out 3 inches, move 6 for 27 inches. You could get with your scouts out of the Land Speeder Storm.
And then your scouts could do an action as well, potentially.
Yeah. They are still elites, but
I wish you could fit 6 of them in a Land Speeder Storm. Suddenly, I'd be buying them all up.
There you go.
We'll come to that one later. But yeah, Land Speeder Storm. I was thinking normal Land Speeder, you could take 3 for 1 slot, but Storms are even better because they take no slots.
Yeah. Well, you can have 1 Land Speeder for a slot, and just that'd count for engage on all fronts if you wanted to do it.
Yeah. Bring a couple of those running around. I think that might be quite an interesting.
You could put 1 Land Speeder into strategic reserves for a CP, quite happily.
Well, they 65 points.
Is it 3 power levels? So you could usually have it in strategic reserve.
I think it's 65 points with a multi-melter.
Interesting. So we're going to see land speeders return attack bikes.
Well, potentially 3 power level for a single land speeder with 1 gun.
Yeah.
What about transports? Because I mean, we're talking mostly about Blood Angels, things like that. But I do think we might see some more sort of transports in this slot as well.
All right. As Highland is pointing out, and he pointed this out to me before, a scout sergeant can dual wield inferno pistols inside a land speeder storm and just pew pew.
Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Get your land speeder storm within that 3 inches to get that D6 plus 2 damage.
I mean,
John, you need to do that on the stream one day, just to piss off Colin or Andrew. That'd be hilarious.
I also want to see someone make a scout sergeant with the dual inferno pistols.
Okay, so what we need is like 2 land speeder storms with 2 sets of scouts. Both sergeants have double infernal pistol, and then you could pretty much guarantee if you move them forward 18 and you disembark 3 and you move 6, you pretty much in turn 1 put 2 dual wielding infernal pistol guys 25 inches forward, right next to whatever character the enemy has, and then just at point blank range shoot 4 infernal pistols at them. And
they can shoot. They couldn't charge, but they could shoot after doing that. Yeah, that's totally. That's ridiculous.
Whilst you can do things, this is where's the Ian Malcolm quote? You spend so much time thinking about what you can do, you don't think about what you should do.
Yeah, that's definitely not what you should do. Okay, what else?
Funny as hell though.
So,
but anyway, let's think about some of the other armies for a minute. I think people like people who are going to love this are Sisters of Battle and those new Witch Seekers with their scout move, so they can use their scout move at the beginning of a game to get forward a bit. The unit hops out, the Rhino runs off, the Rhino can grab engage. That's going to be quite a nice little combo we might see popping up.
Mike Carney, yes, the Land Speeder Storm has the assault vehicle special ability that says units embarked and it can disembark after the Land Speeder Storm has moved. However, if they do that, they can't charge.
Yeah, it's a special assault vehicle rule. Then Pulsar has the same rule as well. I think they're the only 2 in the Space Marine Codex that have that rule, but yeah.
You can get 2 land speeder storms. It's worth even just taking the storms with nothing in them, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They don't
at 3 power level. You could put 3 of them into. Oh, you wouldn't need to put 3 of them into reserves because I think that you can deploy outflanked anyway. Yeah, they can deploy outflanked anyway, so you don't even need to put them into strategic reserves. They won't cost you any CP to do it.
I'm trying to think of some good armies or groups that can put down vehicles and monsters in Deep Strike. I mean, they're gonna love Deep Strike for this. We're going to come to another one of these things later on where Guard Tempestus dropping down units of 10 guardsmen all over the board to do the actions and to do this is going to be an absolute winner. But anybody who's got fast-moving, cheap vehicles that you can just run around, they're still going to be able to engage. It's going to be a bit harder for
Eldar
normal armies that aren't built for it.
Yeah,
it's going to hurt more elite-based armies.
I'm sure.
Certainly going to hurt more Elite 8-based armies. Vipers could be quite nasty for it, potentially. We don't know yet.
I assume Custodes would have a fairly large problem with this, or would they?
I don't know if they would. The reason I'm saying that is one of their rules is certainly for things like OBSEC and Lookout 7 and this sort of stuff, each Custodes model counts as 2 models.
Oh, fair enough.
And I'm not sure how that will interact with this, if that counting as 2 models will carry over as well. The idea being is that a 3-man squad of Custodian Guard will out-OBSEC a 5-man squad of anything else.
Yeah, I don't
kind of makes sense, really, when you think
it makes
about
sense, but I don't think there's any other situation where Codex's rules interact with the standard mission secondaries.
Another option could be 3 Space Marine bikers zooming forward at high speeds to get engaged.
Yeah, but Outriders are still not going to be a good pick before someone.
I didn't say Outriders, I said bikers. Very specifically.
Tactful. Good catch there.
50 or 60 points rather than 150. Yeah, all right, let's go with that. Cheers.
I wonder if they're going to leave Outriders as 150 points in this chapter.
They can't leave Outriders as 150 points. They've either got to be a lot cheaper, you've got to be able to take more of them in a squad, or you need to be able to give the sergeant a weapon.
Depends if they want to sell them. Have we run this one into the ground? Shall we?
I think we've run this one into the ground. Let's have a look at the next one.
Well, should we say if we think it's a positive or a negative change?
I think it's a positive change because I really hate seeing those little 1-man units of chaff running around doing things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit annoying.
Yeah, I mean, servitors are still going to be good though, right?
Four servitor models will be able to do it. It's true.
Still be able to do it for 30 points as a Marine. It feels good to be Marines, guys.
Yeah, unless you're doing 2 model company veteran squads.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's move on then. So what we're looking at no mercy, no respite. So grind them down is staying the same. To the last is staying the same, but no prisoners is changing a little bit. You still score based on the total wound value of the non-vehicle, non-character units you kill, but now you get an extra victory point if you kill between 50 and 99, or 2 bonus ones if you kill more than 100 wounds. Have you ever managed to score decently on this?
Yeah, I have actually. I was facing an all-infantry 6 5-man units of infiltrator Raven Guard army spam, full of servitors and infiltrators and all sorts of things all across the board that screen the entire thing out. And the guy I was facing didn't really realise just how many wounds he was giving up with losing all that infantry from.
He was using 2 wound infantry as chaff.
Yeah, absolutely. So it gave up a lot of this. It gave up 10 or 12 points, which would have given me an extra point over and above. So I'll take it.
It's very situational. I mean,
it's not going to affect Tyranid Crusher Stampede because they're all going to be monsters, so that's not going to be affected. Tyranid Hordes maybe.
Necron Blobs is going to be. Reziel saying in chat Necrons and
yeah, that's fair.
Necrons are going to be the big loser in this one.
I'm not seeing, if they've got 100 units, when they're going to get 12, you're going to get 12 points if they bring 100 infantry.
Yeah. It's basically balancing it a little bit more to punish really extreme skew armies that field hordes and hordes and hordes of models.
I remember 8th when we were seeing the 100 plus 150 poxwalkers and things like that, but they've really sort of reined those in already with the changes to the codex. So the only really, really big armies I'm seeing at the moment are Guard, and we don't know where they're going to be going.
So,
the list that I played a couple of weeks ago where Colin took 60 poxwalkers, I mean, straight away.
Even that's 6 points.
Well,
or now it would be of Terminators, right?
Oh, now
it would be 7 points rather than 6. So, in that regard, trying to get people to do less squiffy skew lists.
I think it's definitely an improvement. No prisoners is worth more. I'd argue 1 or 2 victory points more than it previously was.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure that it penalises 1 or 2 armies specifically, Res, just more specific builds of those armies.
If you run a full conscript horde guard army, you definitely might be feeling. But even then, you're unlikely to have enough to get maxing it out.
Guard are going to be dangerous anyway, because Guard, you're going to be risking taking this and losing points on infantry and taking the one where you kill crap load of vehicles at the same time.
Yeah, I think
bring it down. That's the problem for Guard, and that's a bigger problem than this could solve.
Yeah, I mean, this objective is so situational. You take it once in every 10 games, and when you take it, you usually get like 10. You're only going to take it if you think you could realistically get like 10 or 12 points from it. So if you take it, you're going to get 1 or 2 more. But I think it is situational, and like you said, it's kind of like it's the opposite of bring it down, right? When if you play against a list that has so many vehicles that the enemy knows that they're giving away maximum points for bring it down, this is kind of just the same, right? If the enemy is just
one of the
going to take all
reasons
infantry,
why in my current lists I'm trying to splash in the odd vehicle or 2 to just take out a squad of infantry here and there to make it less vulnerable to this. Put in an extra vehicle makes it more, slightly less imbalanced towards one extreme or the other, which means your opponent's secondary choices against you are that bit harder.
I mean, ideally, what you want is you want to get this to about 9 or 10 points. You want to bring it down to so that they're going, oh, do I bring that, or do I bring that, or with Space Marines, I think you genuinely have to work to get a list that could give up this many points.
Yeah,
you're not going to do it by accident.
Yeah, so I think it's a fine change. I think if the list that brings to my head was when Andrew was running 80 Necron Warriors and a bunch of other stuff, and it's like, if you're going to bring 80 Necron Warriors to basically flood Necrons onto all the objectives and just try and obsec it with the Eternal Conquerors or whatever it is, they're all counted as double obsec, then if the enemy's going to take this against you, they're just going to get a few more victory points. I think that's fair enough. I mean, like you said, you've gone for some sort of ski tactic, and now you give up some more victory points for doing it.
I quite like the idea of a ski tactic, John. It's getting to that time of year.
Sorry.
I wasn't going to mention that.
You got to remember, I got like a 2-week-old baby. I am not getting enough sleep these days. Words are just...
I thought you'd been hitting the slopes of Scotland.
Yeah. I wish. No. I've been hitting the slippery slopes of waking up every 2 hours.
Those slopes are painful, I hear.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we've done this one to death, unless anybody in the chat's got any comments.
Yeah, it feels like we've run this one into the ground. No, we're all good.
Let's move on then. So we are looking at Purge the Enemy. Titan Slayer, no changes. I don't think I've ever taken it. Assassination, no changes. That surprises me a little bit, if I'm honest. But Bring It Down. Bring It Down has changed a little bit.
Assassination, I'm fairly happy with. It argues against taking 5 or more characters and keeps them from...
It keeps Hero Hammer down a bit, doesn't it?
Which is fine. Titan Slayer, I mean...
I've never taken it.
Titan Slayer is one of the reasons why Andrew's list of 14 armigers is viable in that regard, because it doesn't suffer from Titan Slayer because none of them Titanic. But if you're taking big stompy knights, then you are vulnerable to it. So
yeah, no, I've taken Titan Slayer against knight armies. I think even if they just have 2 knights, you get like 12 EP from it. Maybe
John does indeed know where babies come from. Science Dad, yes, you are correct. Well done.
So Titan Slayer is super situational. Yeah, Assassinate, if they have more than 3 characters and you think you can kill them, that's fine.
4's on the edge. 4, you're looking at risking a maximum of what? 13 points?
13, yeah. 3,
you get an extra 1 for the Warlord. Yeah, it's fine.
And Bring It Down. So what's the difference? You score 1.
So Bring It Down.
The
at
brackets
the end
have
of the
changed.
Game, you are scoring 1 victory point for each vehicle or monster killed that had 9 or fewer wounds, 2 for each vehicle or monster with 10 to 14 wounds, 3 victory points for each one with 15 plus wounds.
It used to be 90 plus, was it?
Yeah, previously it was 10 or fewer wounds for the first bracket, 11 to 19 for the next bracket, and 20 plus for the third bracket. So what this does, let's put it in raw tack terms that are nice and simple. Raiders, Dark Eldar, Drukhari Raiders 9 wounds, suddenly vulnerable to this.
Are they?
Raider spam. Yeah.
1 victory point for each one.
Yeah.
But
If you bring 6, you get score 6.
Yeah. If it makes a Drakari player take 1 or 2 less raiders in their army, then great.
Why were you not scoring it against Drukhari before? Because they were.
But if they were 9 wounds before, and this only previously worked against vehicles with 10 or more wounds, then they didn't qualify.
Right. I need to bring it down in the current codex.
Fair enough.
I'm just not sure that this is going to come up that often. You know, I run a really hard skew dreadnought list sometimes, and it's hard skew, and it's got 10 or 11 in it, and that's about as many as you can get. I think the maximum Dex and I have managed to work out in a list is 13 dreadnoughts.
Hang on, Raiders 10 wounds. Skip all of that. I'm talking at me. Oh, sorry, they were previously vulnerable to it.
Yeah, you confusing me. Yeah, if you were below 10 before, it was 1.
Yeah.
So now it's if you're below 9.
Below 9.
If you're below 9, it's none.
So what this has actually done is this has meant people who take transports like raiders, like rhinos, and things like that, suddenly bringing 5 raiders, 6 raiders, you're giving up 12 victory points, whereas before you were giving up 6 victory points. Which was
I'm being stupid. Raiders now grant 2 VP a kill rather than 1 VP a kill.
You know, rhinos 11 wounds. That's a risk.
Raiders
And
have 9 wounds.
The 10 to 14, 15 plus wounds means that you're hitting things like land raiders and that which you weren't previously. So I think it is a good change. It has made it more viable, but I still think that we're not going to see it that often unless people are skewing hard into kind of medium vehicles. Hordes of light vehicles. You need to have a shitload of light vehicles to make up your...
Well, no. 5 raiders at 10 wounds a pop is 10 VP.
Yeah. But what I'm talking about is buggies and dreadnoughts and things like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, your dreadnoughts are 8 wounds, so they're only worth 1. Your fancy dreadnoughts are 9 wounds, so they're only worth 1. It's only really your Redemptors and your really heavy stuff, Redemptors, Leviathans.
Where this will become interesting is the new Tyrannid Crusher Stampede build that is appearing in a crapload of Goonhammer's reported meta lists as being in the top 4 and 5. That is going to become immensely more vulnerable to this.
Yeah.
That's what Chris
will give away 1 or 2 more VP. Yeah, exactly.
That's what Chris is saying in the chat. I can never say that right. Is it
Dimacaron?
Dimacarons, yeah, because they're... I did think it was stupid before that you had to have 20 wounds to get 3 VP, because I was racking my brain. There's not that many... You're not going to be fielding many things that have 20 plus wounds, right? Yeah. So this is much better.
Land Raiders are supposed to be about as heavy as vehicles get. For a long time, they were the heaviest vehicle in 40k. And they've got 18.
And I guess Rhinos for Space Marines are 11 wounds, but Rhinos for Sisters are 10 wounds. But I guess that doesn't matter, because Rhinos now will be 2 VP.
It doesn't affect it, does it?
Rhinos are 10 wounds, so they have now gone from being worth 1 to being worth 2.
This is really penalising.
At least that's a Space Marine Rhino, anyway.
Those kind of heavy transport builds. Well, you start bringing big numbers of transports, you're liable to give up a lot of money for doing this. Victory points for doing this. And a lot of money. They're quite expensive, some of them.
Yeah.
Bring it down would almost certainly work against guard tanks, yeah. That's kind of what it's designed to do. If a guard player takes huge amounts of Lehman Russes and nothing else, bring it down is one of the perfect picks to take against it as a secondary.
But this also hits the old Armoured Fists kind of squads as well, if they start bringing Chimera Swarms and... How many wounds has the Valkyrie got?
Don't know. Let's have a look.
3 victory points for the Riptide now. That's very true.
3.
Does the Riptide have the vehicle keyword? Because that's...
No, it's a monster.
Valkyrie's at 14 wounds.
Yeah.
But still, sorry, how many wounds?
14.
So they're in that
for
2
Valkyrie.
VP. So they don't quite trip over into the 3, which is probably good for them. So we'll still see some, which is good because I like them. They're cool.
And a Lehman Russ battle tank's at 12, so that's worth 2 VP.
Yeah. So this is really going to penalise armoured companies and transport heavy lists.
Which is what it's designed to do.
Which is what it's designed to do, which is good. I think this is a good change to the secondary.
They're driving the game away from really sort of unbalanced lists that skew heavily in one direction or another.
I think this is a good change. I'm quite pleased with this one.
I'm pleased with this change. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, Rez says Riptide's worth 3 VPs now under this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he's corrected himself. I have no idea how many wounds Riptide's got. So
they may change. Everything may change in the new book, I guess.
Yeah, we don't know, do we?
Everything changed when the Town Nation attacked.
Yeah. And they upgraded their guns, and everyone on Twitter was...
I really hope somebody gets that reference. Otherwise, I'll just... whatever. Anyway, moving on.
Everyone's going to ignore it. We're not
totally.
Okay, should we look at the next one then? I think we've probably done this one to death.
Yeah, let's
go for it.
So, shadow operations. Now, these have had the biggest numbers of changes. Raise the banners. Nothing's happened there. Deploy teleport homers now complete at the end of your turn. If attempted by a unit with the troops battlefield role as opposed to the next command phase. I think this is a big change. Investigate signal. I like the change to this one. You can now attempt the action even if there's enemies within 6 of the center of the battlefield, but you only complete it if there's no enemies still within 6 of the center of the battlefield. So if you're going in there hard, say you're going to be looking for Oath of Moment points, something like that, and you're going to clear the center of the battlefield out, and you're pretty confident that your big blob of Blade Guard or whatever are going to do it, then you can still operate. You can still start investigate signal, even if there's a. Previously, you couldn't if there was a grot hanging around in the middle there somewhere. So I think that's a interesting change. Then the big one that everyone's been talking about is retrieve Nachmund data. This is getting rid of the old retrieve Octarius data. This can be attempted by 1 infantry or biker unit per turn if they are more than 6 inches from another table court. So I don't think that's changed. At the end of your turn, you roll D6, subtracting 1 if the unit performing the action has the troops battlefield roll. If you roll less than or equal to the number of models in the unit, the action is completed. 4, 8, and 12 points, 2, 3, and 4 times respectively. This is the big change that we've had here.
Yeah. The distances have not changed. What has changed is that it's a dice roll to do.
And that's an interesting... I don't know how I feel about that, if I'm honest.
Ultimately, it takes Retrieve Octarius data from being one of the most popularly picked and regularly high-scoring secondaries and means you've got to actually take either high unit count... well, I say high, like 5 or 6 models in a squad in order to be able to do it with any sense of reliability, or 4 or 5 troops.
Which is what we were talking about in our video last week, and it does seem, the changes to teleport homers, the changes to Nakaman data, does seem to be incentivizing troops as less of a just a pure tax, and more something you're going to want for these secondaries.
A single lictor will do it 1 time in 6. And previously, Tyranny players were guaranteeing on that, banking on that for doing Rod as well as Engage, which is fine.
And a 5-man...
2 company vets won't do it reliably.
A 5-man troop squad will always perform it, though, correct?
Correct.
Until they take a casualty. And that's the bit I'm not so keen on, because by having it like this, you're trying to put your troops around, then you're almost incentivizing your opponent to just kill a couple of models in each unit, and then all of a sudden you are buggered.
Which is, if you think about it, that's GW saying... we want this game to be more interactive now, unless I'm going to score points or be able to score points without interacting with you. We're going to encourage people to get stuck in a bit more, which is cool. Maybe. However, there's still ways around it. You could have a unit at the back of your field behind a building of incursors or whatever. They RND turn 1. They go away turn 2. They come back turn 3 behind some buildings in your other quarter and do it. They go away turn 4. They come back turn 5 in one of the other enemy quarters and do an action. The enemy can't stop it. They've been relatively well protected the entire battle, which means that you're 1 quarter down that you could have done in turn 2 or 4 with some other unit. Or it costs you 1 unit of Phobos troops and 2 CD.
Yeah. I mean, Phobos are going to be good for this, I guess. They always were.
I think we're still going to see this being taken, I think, quite a lot. It's just we're going to be seeing it achieved by troops rather than...
However, deploy teleport homers. That's interesting now. Previously, that was a complete write-off, and I'd ignore it totally because it always started during your turn and completed during your enemy's turn, which meant your enemy had a chance of getting rid of you and stopping you doing it. Now, if a troops unit tries to do the action, they complete during your turn. That's big.
I thought there was there not some second part to that where you don't have to do it in the enemy's deployment zone as well now, or did I miss that?
No, you never had to do that. What it was you scored 2 VP if you do it within 12 inches of your enemy's deployment zone.
Mhm.
So, which is essentially 24 inches from the back, kind of. And you score 4 VP if you do it within the enemy's deployment zone, wholly within.
So incursors are going to be great for this.
Oh, yeah. If they can't screen them out and you deploy teleport homers, and it's not capped. So RND is obviously capped at 12 for doing the action 4 times. This isn't capped. You can get the full 15 off of this.
Yeah, and do you know what? The other thing that I didn't like about teleport homers before was you could never do it in turn 5. You know, because some of the other objectives would say, like, score it in the command phase or at the end of the game, but teleport homers never had that or at the end of the game. So now I guess if you have a unit of guerrilla tactics troops that you don't need in turn 3 or 4, guerrilla tactics them off the board to come back in turn 5 in the enemy's deployment zone and just do this. And it will complete within your turn as well, so you can score it in turn 5. And I guess we're talking about like not doing retrieve Nakman data, or Nakman data is going to be much harder than Rod. Well, I mean, there's nothing to say your one single remaining infiltrator or incursor couldn't do this now, right? For 4VP.
Yeah, because there's no restriction on the number of models in there.
Yeah.
So unlike Nakamund, where you do have to protect them a little bit, you can't afford them to get weakened down. As long as there's one guy, you can deploy the teleport homers and score the point.
So we may actually see a shift. This is why I was saying a little while ago, I think, I could be wrong here, but I think as a Space Marine player, moving into like Chapter Approved 2022, we're going to see a lot more battalions, and as a Blood Angel player, we're going to see a lot of incursors. I think they're going to be worth their weight in gold. I mean, it could
James Fisher has just said in chat, Terminators should get bonus points for deployed teleport homers, which you're damn right they should.
Absolutely agree.
But
incursors, hate your incursors, guys. Trust me, it's going to be important.
Right, I've got to have a break here. I've got to interject because now we're moving on to
the next can.
Lost in Mango.
You're lost, my
Mango
friend.
is one of my favourite tastes in the world ever, but I can guarantee you that beer is going to taste like piss.
I had some when I was in Tanzania, we've got family living out there. They've got mango trees in the garden, and we were going out and picking a mango, and it was like mind-blowing. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to be fucking awful. I mean, the rule of if it looks like piss, it will taste like piss does apply.
We didn't play our disclaimer tonight. We should have played our disclaimer.
Oh, yeah, Tony, do your disclaimer.
Oh, do I disclaim it? Yeah, okay. So,
school kids.
If any of my students are watching this, you shouldn't be. You've been warned. You've been told not to. So piss off. If anybody gets anything from this that they feel is bad advice, especially for your life,
then that's what it is.
That's what it is. Don't listen to us. We don't know anything. We're just 3 middle-aged men talking bollocks about toy soldiers. We are not a good source of life advice in any way. So if you do learn something, it's a happy accident. It's not our intention.
Take it as a win and move on. Yeah.
Take it as a win, move on.
Teleport Homer it doesn't score at the end of the game, but it will complete within your turn if it's done by a troops unit.
You've got turn 5 and some troops.
Yeah.
What an ice cream float as well, isn't
that? Okay. Do you dip your finger in like that often?
I was going to say, do you know how to pour a beer, do you?
Oh, fishy.
Covered in frothy stuff. Moving on. So you deploy teleport homers 4 times in your enemy's deployment zone, then you've scored maximum 50. You got your maximum 15 points for
Jesus
secondary.
Christ!
Yeah, I mean, you only need to really do it 3, and you've kept up.
What is that flavour?
Oh, it's mango.
It's mango.
No, it's not. It's like if you licked one of those Glade plugins.
We're going to run out of fancy beers for you to try at some point. And one day you're going to try one that doesn't taste like shit.
Well, I've had some lovely beers, but I feel for a special occasion, I feel I should be adventurous and try interesting things. I'm looking at the last one on my desk, which is what I've got to drink after this one, and I'm dreading it.
Oh,
so if you do this 3 times, then you're as good as taking Natman data. This might be easier than Natman data.
Or if you do it once within 12 inches of the DZ and 3 times within the DZ, that's 14 points out of 15. Which is
totally fine. And can I just clarify this, because I haven't seen all the leaks? I'm just going from your slides here. Can we do this with a squad of
Goonhammers? Yeah,
Goonhammer slides? Well, the
Yeah,
slides.
we ripped them off. Remember?
Can
Yeah.
we do this with a squad of servitors?
No. Well, you can, but it's
they're
the
not
same as
troops.
the old rules.
So you could bring in a squad of servitors and turn 2 1 inch away from their deployment zone. Do it for 2. Turn 3 the servitors, jump into their deployment zone.
Yes and no, because the servitors are not troops. They would have to wait until the end of the enemy's turn for the action to complete.
Sure,
So they would get a chance to kill them off, and they're only servitors.
Yeah, if they don't have indirect fire and the terrain's with you, though, I could see that being an option.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm liking, I know I've said it before, I'm liking infiltrators for this simply because you can pop them up. That 12-inch bubble means that nobody's going to be dropping anything down to try and charge them after you've popped
At
them
least
up.
in reactionary deep strike or...
Yeah. So I quite like the feel of that.
And can I
The
just...
expensive for it's the only problem with that.
Yeah, go on, John.
Can I just say that the change to investigate signals, I still think is a complete
Well,
bollocks.
I can't see it makes a
Secondary.
blind bit of difference, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly, because great, you can start the action if your units are in the middle, but, like, here's the thing. If you're starting the action, unless you've got another unit that's just chilling, ready to wipe all the enemy's units, what unit's doing the action and what unit's wiping the enemies, and...
I think the argument is you might potentially have that, because you can do that with any unit. So that's your creepy servitors. If you're trying to take the middle for Oath or something like that, previously, if you took Signal, all they needed to do was put a foot of a grot on the middle somewhere, and you couldn't do it. Now, if you know for a fact that there's a toughness 2...
No, the unit had to be wholly within 6 inches.
You can still stick some chaff in there, and now you can't stick some chaff in there. So if you're planning on taking the middle anyway, I don't think this is too bad. As long as you've got the hitting power to do it, and you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's just... It feels to me
It's
like...
more likely to be able to be done.
Yeah. I feel like it would be an overcommitment to try and do this.
If you're building your army for Oaths of Moment anyway, then there's an argument to say this could synergize with that.
True.
Yeah, if you're saying I'm going to hold the middle, then you might as well hold the middle and investigate signals while you're at it. Potentially, depending on how your army is built, depending on what army you're playing. I'm not saying you should take this, but now it's more takeable than it previously was.
It's also only worth 3 VP a turn, so you got to do it successfully 5 turns in a row to max it out.
Yeah, which is horrific.
Which is hard.
Then again, doing it for 4 turns, getting 12 points is the same as doing retrieve Nachtmund data.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So I think if anything that makes a secondary more viable than it previously was is a good thing.
Daniel says, are you sure investigate signals change back to within from fully within?
There's a direct copy from Goonhammer, so that their source being the GW event where that came from, Daniel, is where we've got that news from. We will find
I can read the previous one if you want. The old one was a unit, 1 infantry unit from your army can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if it is wholly within the center of the battlefield and no enemy units are wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. So that's the big change there. You've still got to be within 6, but if they're within 6 as well, you can kill them off in your turn.
Just as a note, there's a bunch of you in here. Thank you very, very much for joining us. It is absolutely awesome of you. We're still trying to grow the channel. If you'd like to like and subscribe to this if you haven't already, that'd be grand. And we'll see if we can get a few more people subscribing and, I don't know, maybe get to the point where we have a nice round 1,000 subscribers. That'd be cool.
We did
can
actually
start
get
making some more videos.
Did actually get 2 subscribers, but apparently because I set up the alert right beforehand, it didn't, for whatever reason, work.
So thank you, those 2 people who subscribed us, but John cocked it up, so we don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And if you weren't here at the start, Daniel, the new White Dwarf 472, which goes on pre-order this weekend, will have these new secondaries in the White Dwarf as cards that you can keep and use in your games. So we will find out definitively when the new White Dwarf is on shelves and people have it, who aren't the people who subscribe to it annually and get it a week before everybody else.
Look, I even made this cool wrestler as well.
What? Co-wrestler?
Cool wrestler, did you not see it?
Getting the channel big enough to have a donate button and all that kind of stuff will be cool. Having a community tab would be nice where we can just.
I think a community tab is a big thing that we really want at the moment. and then we can stop piggybacking off of John's channel all the time.
Yeah. Perfect. There we go.
And anything that lets me complete my collection of codexes, because I'm getting quite close to having all of them at the moment.
Is there anything else you want to say about these three? So retrieve Nachmund data is becoming a little more fiddly to do than Rod ever was, which goes
still perfectly
promoting the
viable.
inclusion of troops, which is nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Investigate signal is a tiny bit more viable than it was before, and deploy teleport homers becomes very interesting.
It's a lot more viable than it was before if you've got some troops in your army to do it.
I'm really liking Dash, you are bot, go away, I think. So whatever, moving on.
Do you guys ever run Raise the Banners?
Hey, look, it worked. Kyran subscribed. Thank you so much, Kyran.
Cheers.
There we go. It worked.
Raise the Banners High is down on my list of secondaries that I would pick for 1 mission out of 9.
Which mission?
It's the one where you've got 2 objectives in your deployment zone, and then another 2
on either side,
closer to your DZ than the middle.
Yeah.
So it's easy for you to raise banners in 4 relatively quickly, which means you've got a good chance of scoring maximum or at least a high amount of points from raise banners high if you've got the models there to raise the banners in the first place and score them and do them. Which is a little bit tricky if one of your banner holding units is a whirlwind.
Yeah,
but
I think that's been my problem for it. I've taken it a couple of times, but it's never done very well for me. I think because my armies are generally a little bit too small, and then I don't really have anything to spread out like that. But it's never been quite one that I've always felt it should be better than it is.
That's fair. I mean, if you wanted to have a couple of company vets next to somewhere to raise a banner and move on or whatever, then that could work as well. But
yeah,
it's never really fit. We're very much a go out there and kill stuff army. As Blood Angels, Vanna sit back and hold stuff army.
Yeah, I've still been running the Patrol Vanguard, Blood Angels. I like Patrol Vanguard, but I think looking at this, to be honest, I'm going to have to start. I said it in the episode last week, but I'm going to have to start moving towards a battalion.
Yeah.
I don't think I can.
Which I like. And I like that because it encourages people to fit within a sort of combined arms way of approaching the army, where you've got some elites, some heavy, some fast, some troops, some HQs, rather than skewing very heavily in one direction or the other. And I like that.
The other rumour was that the patrol detachment is going to lose 1 fast attack and 1 heavy support slot as well. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Where did that come from?
I have heard earlier today that there might be changes to the detachments, but I've not heard specifics. And that was the first time I've heard that rumour. No, that's literally all I heard.
No, yeah, that's. I don't know where I read it. Maybe
it was in some Discord somewhere.
Yeah, Brett was always like posting Warhammer links all the time in like the Plastic Crackheads group, so it was probably Brett shared it. And yeah, the other souping sub-factions. Did you guys read that or hear that as well, potentially?
I've read some of the sub-faction stuff.
I think it was to do with the Sisters leak, actually.
Well, they've just had their...
Were people souping sub-factions?
No.
I mean, Eldar is designed around souping sub-factions, so you can take Craftworld and Harlequins and Ynnari and Drakari and all that sort of stuff. So for them to say they're going to kibosh that doesn't strike me as... on it.
I'd be surprised if they did it any more than they already have. But I really hope they don't change the patrol detachment, because my second most played army is Custodes, and they will be totally fucked if they kibosh the patrol detachment, because I am not fitting battalions in 2,000 points.
No, you can't just take like squads of like 3 Custode guards. That's not that expensive, is it?
It's 150 points for 3 men.
Yeah. Can't get them cheaper if you drop their storm shields.
The sister's able to do it and nobody else.
Yeah, the 45 points base, 50 points with the sword. Although rumour has it that the shield is going to go up to 10 points, which I think is a bit much. I've got a 1+ armour save. It's not worth 10 points. 5 points, yeah, I'm going with it.
Yeah. I think this is far too speculative at this point to consider it anywhere near reliable. So it'd be interesting.
When there is a leak and patrol detachments get nerfed, we will do a stream and we can just have Tony on here crying.
And we'll do it at the same time as when we...
It would just be an hour of me sitting here crying.
Yeah, and drinking terrible beer. I mean, what's not to love?
I like these changes to Shadow Ops. I think they're going to be interesting. They're going to change up the game. It is something to think about anew as to how it's going to affect and change up list building and list writing, and that's always fun.
I think that's always important, isn't it?
Yeah. Otherwise, it gets too boring. Although 6 months as a turnaround time strikes me as a bit quick.
I don't really have a problem with the turnaround. If it was tied in with something like, I pay for the app. It's $5 a month. I'm not really that bothered about Warhammer Plus. It's not been really great value, but I do quite like the app. And together, yeah, sure. But I feel I should get this included.
I guess the every 6 months thing depends on the scale of the changes they do every 6 months. In theory,
what
they
I
shouldn't
don't
be
like is
that big.
buying a £25 book every 6 months, which is basically a pamphlet. Ignoring the environmental concerns because it's a waste of bloody time. I think Mark and I are going to drop ours off at Warhammer World when we go there in March.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't like that aspect of it. Changing it up for the meta, keeping things fresh, new secondaries, new changes, tying it in with narrative as well and Crusade. That's all really exciting to me. But spending £25 every 6 months on what is now going to be basically consumable, I'm not quite so on board with. I feel
going
like
back there briefly. If anybody else is
is
planning on going to the 25th Warhammer World anniversary, then Tony and I will be there and hit us up. It'll be cool.
Yeah, we'll go to Bugman's Bar. And I'll struggle to drive home. I've got a Volvo, it's very safe. Not that I never drink drive.
I did see someone said on Reddit, do Games Workshop just hate trees?
No, Games Workshop like money more.
Yeah.
Games Workshop love money. They roll around on piles of money, giggling.
We're going to the afternoon slot on the Saturday, Mike.
Cool. All right, do we want to check out the next slide?
I think so.
Let's do this. Moving on.
Okay, so Warcraft. Not really much to say about here. Warp Ritual stays the same. Pierce of Veil stays the same. Abhor the Witch stays the same. The only real difference here is Psychic Interrogation, which no longer requires line of sight to the target, which is quite handy because it was a little bit annoying when you were playing someone who just kept hiding their characters in buildings or behind buildings. So it's a minor improvement to Psychic Interrogation. It's a little bit easier to do it. There's a little bit more reason to do it.
It's not going to affect a Marine list, because if you're taking a Psyker as a Marine army, then that's not a small points investment, and you're taking them for the powers they can grant, the buffs to your units, the debuffs to the enemy units, and the wounds they can deal.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really going to affect us in that
Could
regard.
you take a cheap Inquisitor to do this?
You can take a cheap Inquisitor.
With Eldar around the corner, I've been thinking, Warlocks are quite cheap. Yeah, 40, 50 points in the elite slot. Stick a Warlock on a objective.
For me, this has been more leaning, like you say, for Blood Angels, probably not. You could cheap Inquisitor to do it, but your Librarian's probably got better things to be doing if you've brought one. But for Grey Knights, for Thousand Suns.
Yeah, and oh god, reading that recent Goonhammer article about the current state of the metagame and what's been ruling the roost in tournaments, Thousand Suns are at the top of every other tournament they covered this week.
Yeah, because they can do 20 mortal wounds every psychic phase or more.
Potentially, yeah. Whilst we are bringing a bit of anti-psychic, like I say, we're going to talk about Custodes in a couple of weeks, but one of the new Custodes shield hosts, overall rules, and probably there's some amazing ones, there's some great ones, but I think I'm never going to use them. I'm just going to use the kind of core one for a 4-up feel no pain against mortals. I think at the moment there's so many mortals about that even Space Marines are lobbing mortals everywhere with their contemptors. That taking any of the other really cool buffs would be a mistake in a kind of tournament setting. There's Thousand Suns can throw out a lot. They haven't been storming the meta. I think they've just suddenly, the last couple of weeks, really started to.
I think it's a meta change rather than their OP, because obviously a lot of other armies took a big of a hit with a balanced slate, and we're just now kicking into new tournaments after the Christmas break. So I think it's more a reaction to that than anything else.
Yeah.
I played against
I don't think they're broken. I think they can be quite weak. But
yes, Thomas, that is one of the rumours that I've read as well. Yeah, Warlocks will not take an elite slot if you're doing one-for-one with Farseers like Tech Marines and Servitors and things. So that'll be interesting. But if a warlock on his own is sat behind somewhere, then he'll be easy to get rid of with a whirlwind or a single bit of line of fire. So
Yeah, but if they're that cheap, you can spam them.
Yeah, it's true. But then you're vulnerable to character kill and assassination. So you weigh it up whether you do or don't want to do something.
So yeah, not really much to talk about with Warcraft. Should we move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good change, but at the same time, yeah, I mean...
It's a small change, but it's a good change, but there's not really much to talk about other than
I don't see it being
slightly easier to do now.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this takes us off of our secondaries and starts us looking at the new primary information we've had. So we've got a couple of new missions that have been previewed. Now, I think these were previewed.
These were publicly previewed on Warhammer Community.
So
anybody can download
we're not
these
just
and
ripping
use
off
them.
Hammer anymore. Now we're ripping off Warhammer Community as well. As you can see, literally as I copy pasted these off the page. So the first of our new missions, secure missing artifacts. I quite like it because it means that I think I can just about get my Thunderhawk in a deployment zone.
I was going to say it's priority target, right? It's a rework of priority target.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So priority target is the one where each player gets to move like one A, an A and a B, and then the other B.
And they still do. Yeah, exactly right.
Before, used to the secondary part of it was that you could pick one objective that was your priority target. If you held it, you got 3 points per turn. If you held your priority and the enemy's priority, you would get, is it 5 a turn, 6 a turn? Double, almost, I guess. So what's new?
What's new is a common theme between this one and the other mission, which we'll get to in a moment, and that is the fact that the mission-specific objective that used to be a possible secondary that you can choose is now mandatory. You must take it, and it counts towards the primary points you get rather than the secondaries. So you still pick 3 secondaries, it counts as 45 points. But your primaries are now split between the little mini precious artifacts thing there, and you're holding your primary objectives.
Okay, so at the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores 3 victory points if they control the priority objective marker that is in their own territory. So...
this one's pretty easy to get unless you've done something weird.
Yeah, and control 1, control 2, control more now give 4, 8, 12 as opposed to 5, 10, 15. So if you just focused on that...
Well, no, it's not as easy anymore because the priority ones aren't likely to be the ones in your DZ. Not anymore.
Well, it rotates around, isn't it? You've got 1 turn of it in your...
So, after all objective markers have been repositioned, you note down one of the objective markers within your opponent's territory to be a priority objective marker that isn't the one in the middle. And the territory is each half. So, if your opponent will pick one of those 2 objectives, I assume they won't pick the one in your DZ.
Yeah, so you have to hold the one that's not in your DZ, basically. Unless they choose.
You have to hold the one they want you to hold.
Interesting. Okay. So
if they want you to stay back, they pick the one in your DZ. If they want you to
hang on, Mark. After all objective markers have been repositioned, each player secretly notes down one of the objective markers that is within the opponent's territory. So it has to be within their...
No. Territory is not deployment zone. Look at the map.
Oh, right.
Territory
is the half of the board.
Okay, yeah. So you've got to hold the one in your deployment zone and probably the one in the middle there as well.
No, not necessarily deployment zone. Deployment zone.
You don't know. They could pick the one in your deployment zone. You don't know.
They could. It's true. It's unlikely, but no, it's up to them.
Yeah, if they've seen you're running a full attacky list, they might think, "Ha ha!"
Let's say they pick the one that's not in my DZ, and I pick the one that is not in their DZ to force them to come out and meet me. To achieve that progressive objective precious artifacts, you've got to hold the 2 on the sort of the no man's land that aren't in deployment zones.
Yeah, someone said that this one. James said this one is set up for Blood Angels to just pick the one in their deployment zone and then go relentless assault. I mean, I guess that's one way you could do it.
You pick the objective outside their deployment zone, which encourages them to move out of their DZ. Then you go for relentless assault because they move all their stuff out of it, leaving a big hole in their deployment zone.
Yeah, or
you
can smash into them in their deployment zone and stop them getting those 3 VP as well, because you're killing their deployment zone, I guess.
Yeah.
Interesting. So basically, I think this is the general theme for these new missions.
There's one other thing we haven't mentioned yet.
Go for it.
Previously, you could score a maximum of 15 victory points per turn by holding objectives. Just by holding objectives. Now, that is down to 12 victory points a turn, just by holding objectives.
Well, no, it's still 15, as long as you hold the priority one as well.
I'm ignoring that little precious artifacts thing.
Okay. So you can still score as much as long as the ones you've got include the priority one.
Yeah.
But previously, it didn't. You just needed to hold more.
So if we're looking at it as a summary, you've now got what kind of amounts to 4 secondary objectives.
Yeah,
and holding the objectives themselves is scaled down a little bit from what it was.
Yeah, so there's that's a good way to look at it, is now there is 4 secondaries, but one of them is going to be baked into the mission.
Yeah.
And secondaries now, the 4 secondaries together will give you, 60 VP total?
It's not changed. The actual numbers are still the same.
The 3 secondaries you choose can max out at 45, and the 1 secondary you don't choose counts towards your primary points.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still 45, 45, and 10, although...
It's a little bit confusing. It's going to be a bit weird to get your head around, but it's interesting in how they're making just going out and holding objectives less critical than they used to be.
That's
probably a good thing that they want you to be fighting and killing and not just rocking up with 70, 80 Necron warriors and trying to cover every single objective and call it a day. They want you to be fighting and not just...
That's exactly right, Mugen. 1 mandatory secondary, 3 that you choose.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
But the secondary that is mandatory is technically a primary. So, yeah.
We have another mission to look at as well, don't we?
We do,
yes. But before we get to that, I've got to open the final horror, which is called Mallow Laser Quest.
What the hell?
And is marshmallow and pineapple.
All right, place your bets now. Tony throwing up on stream.
Laser Quest.
Now,
I mean, I don't know who's worse, you buying these beers or them making these flavors. And they had this
box set of Christmas... They called it Christmas beer from Brewdog, and it had some really weird shit.
Looks like Resident
And for some reason, they had boxes of this, and it was all about half price in Tesco.
Tony, it's a bit crap, really.
About a quid a can.
It's just a bit crap, really.
Yeah.
Is it worse than Gabriel Seth?
That last one was.
Oh, God.
Do you know what? If I blended Gabriel Seth, mixed him in a glass of water, he would have been better tasting. And that's even if I use scale colour paints, which if anybody else uses, are the most foul tasting paint of all the ranges.
Nothing says Christmas like marshmallow and mango. Oh, God.
Fucking weird. Why is it called Mallow Laser? What the Anyway, let's see what colour it comes out. Oh, there's a surprise. Piss.
I mean, that
your piss come out that colour?
Pretty fluorescent orange.
Well, it will do if I keep drinking these.
That looks like Iron Brew level colour.
It's orange. Look at that.
It does look a bit like Iron Brew, doesn't it?
I need to get the aroma first. It smells like...
piss.
Right. This is going to be a really specific reference, but if you've got it before, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. If you get a load of teenagers and then you take them on a bus journey somewhere, well, they have a thing about sugar and they start gulping down 3-4 litres of Coke, eating all the little licorice thingies and all the other crap, and then they'll just chunder everywhere. Right? And it always happens every single time, especially if you're going to be trapped for a few hours with them. And they'll throw up, and there's this kind of combination of sugar and vomit. Because it's completely undigested because they just knock it back and then throw it up. Oh, so God. That's what this smells like.
So, school kids, if you're watching the stream, that's the disclaimer previously went. Oh, man.
You shouldn't be. You were told not to.
White Lightning cider. Yeah,
Jesus.
that's what I used to vomit up.
Hold on, no, we want this reaction. Oh, wow. Somebody needs to make a gif out of that facial expression, please. Please, someone.
Oh, jeez. So, let me explain the flavour. If you got a beer and then you dissolved marshmallows, maybe some of those sugary licorice laces, and you just got all the sweets from like the old penny sweets and stuff, just boshed them in. I'll tell you what it's like. Did anybody ever get Skittles when they were a student and mix Skittles and vodka? And, you know, it didn't improve the flavour, but people kept doing it anyway.
That's true.
Oh, dude.
It's like that, but in beer form. If someone's been dissolving Skittles in their beer...
Better you than me. Far better
Say,
you
isn't
than
that
me.
the worst thing you want at Christmas? There's so many other sweet things in the house, like crisps and chocolate and cake. Like, why do you need beer that's that
I've
sweet?
got to drink it, though. I paid for it.
You know, some guys convinced me to make a new channel in the Discord, in the Blood Angels Discord a little while back, called the Red Thirst.
That's the best
Post
thing
all
ever.
the pictures of alcohol and interesting things that people drink and what they like and whatnot. Oh man!
I feel like I'm going to take a picture of these 3 cans in a minute and just put them in there and say, don't buy them.
If we do come up and visit John at some point, we're going to bring some of this foul-tasting beer and
This stuff's made near him. We've got him to blame for
we
it.
ship it away. We're like, get rid of this crap.
It's like we always used to say that Germans don't drink Blue Nun, but apparently they do. Yeah, they actually like
Right.
sweet wine.
Okay, so objective mission 2.
Oh, it's a flavour that just doesn't quit. Can't even find my mouse. Right, mission
He's
2.
gone blind
Recover the
already.
relics.
Oh wow! So this is also an update of an existing mission, and the existing mission was called the Scouring.
Scouring, yes.
Which, to be fair, was a fairly crap mission.
What was the secondary on the Scouring before? Was it?
We didn't.
The strategic scan.
Oh, I remember strategic scan. Yeah, okay. So
One of my units from your army can start performing at the end of movement phase.
and you got points for every objective that you had models on, as long as one unit on an objective was performing. So what's new?
The more actions you do,
yeah,
the
it
more
was an
points you
action, wasn't it? And that was what was annoying about it. You could get 15 points if you did it 4 times, which I suppose was nice.
get. And now it is the end of each battle round. Each player gets 3p for each enemy unit that was destroyed during the battle round, to a maximum of 3 points per player per battle round. And again, screw you, Necrons, which is fine.
Okay, and mission rules. In this mission, players only receive Battle Forge CP bonus at the start of the command phase if they control either one or more objective marker in their opponent's territory, which is... What does it mean by territory?
The territory is their half of the battlefield.
Okay. Or if they control
It's been cropped off of the screenshot there.
Alright, if they control one or more objective in no man's land. In addition, at the start of the command phase, a player controls the objective marker in their opponent's deployment zone. That player receives 1 additional command point. And this is addition to their Battle Forge. So if you can somehow get your opponent's deployment zone objective at any point in this game, then you are getting 2 CP a turn.
Yeah. Which is...
We could probably, if you're playing Blood Angels and you're going to go for a deep strike nastiness...
On the one hand, it's good, but on the other hand, it's not good, because if you're already doing well and winning, then you get more cool stuff. So, and I believe that's called a win more condition. It doesn't help balance the game out if you're already losing or make it any tighter than it already was. If you're already beating the crap out of your opponent, then it gives you more tools to beat your crap out of your opponent with, which is not something I'm that interested in.
It does also incentivize though holding your home objective, not just with the whirlwind.
Also,
Infiltrators, another little bonus for them. They can't be dropping in with their 5-man death company and clearing you off the objective so easily if you start putting 12-inch denials around it.
The Scouring was the one with the tiny deployment zone, James. Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
It was ridiculously tiny.
Yeah.
There was also the point, I guess, where, like, Deep Strike had kind of fallen pretty far out of the meta. I went to 2 tournaments, like, in September and November, and I think I was the only... I played 10 games, obviously, 2 tournaments, and I think in every single game I played, no one had reserves except me. And like,
there was that guard list you fought as well, wasn't there?
oh, you're right. The guard list had a shitload
That
of
went
reserves.
hard
All
on
right,
the
so
strike.
every other list had no reserves except the guard list. And I was
Also, I'm sorry, just correcting something. This is also similar layout to Retrieval Mission as well as Scouring, so it might not be replacing Scouring.
I hope it replaces Scouring because that was rubbish.
So this maybe in some ways, if you could drop in a squad, let's say like, Khorne Terminators, for example, you can drop in a squad of Terminators that can clear the backfield objective and then hold it because they're Terminators and they're resilient. All of a sudden you're getting an extra CP until your opponent comes back and deals with your 5-man Terminator squad in their own deployment zone. It's an interesting one.
Yes, Reziel, that is a statue of the Guyver, which was one of the first animes that I watched in the mid-90s, and I love it and still love it, even though it's cheesy and shit.
Do you know I don't know anything about anime apart from its Japanese television?
I don't know anything about it, but what you said is shit.
Maybe we can schedule it for after the Star Wars episode, Tony.
Well, I don't want to do the Star Wars episode. Everybody
yeah,
knows Star Wars.
We're going to do the Star Wars episode.
We are going to do a Star Wars episode. Right?
Yeah, the new episode of Boba Fett today was really cool.
Don't care.
I know you don't care. That's what makes it more tragic.
I used to like it. I used to love Star Wars.
All right.
Oh.
So what do we think of this then? This has got the same thing. So Control 4, Control 8, Control 12.
What?
Sorry. Hold 1, hold 2, hold more for 4, 8, 12 points, yes?
Yes, that's right.
3 points.
From maximum 12 a turn.
Yeah. So another 3. So your unoptional secondary, I guess, is destroy up to 3 units per turn for 3 points.
Yeah, which is really going to punish people bringing little units of chaff, isn't it?
You can, as with the last one, you could, in theory, ignore that break them body and soul objective. You don't technically have to do it. GW is just giving you extra tools to score primary points. You can still max out your 45 of primaries by just holding objectives.
Can you?
You just got to do it over more turns than you had to previously. What's 5 times 12?
5 turns, wouldn't you?
What's 5 times 12?
Well, you don't. Hold on, you don't score.
You don't score at the first turn, do you?
The first
All right,
turn,
what's 4
so
times 12?
48.
There you go. 48 is 3 more than the maximum 45.
Yeah.
So if you hold all 3 things,
And,
if you do 1, 2, and more for 4 turns, then that's 48 points, which is your 45 for primary, and you can totally ignore break them body and soul.
Yeah, because originally I was looking at what Daniel just said in the chat and was like, sounds horrible. You need to leave enemy units alive so you can score more points later in the game. But
You don't have to.
You can
but you don't. And to be fair, even if you you just want to kill them, because you're going to pick up points here and there randomly anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because you are going to have to kill them at some point. As you kill things, you're going to pick up the odd victory point here and there.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a nice little bonus.
It gives you more way to score primaries. You can do so by holding objectives and by doing this little extra mini compulsory secondary.
Thank you so much for the subscription. We just got another one coming in there. And Jon Favreau is the best thing to happen to Star Wars since 1983. I thought Jon
Favreau and Dave Filoni both in partnership. The pair of them have made Star Wars so good. The Clone Wars cartoon series, Rebels cartoon, all of this.
Is it enough to counter that movie where they had like the ship that went to light speed, killed the entire enemy fleet, and thus invalidated every other space battle of every other movie ever made?
Yes, without reservation, it is absolutely good enough to counter that.
You just don't.
That was fucking shit.
Episode 7, 8, and 9. You just don't need to watch those movies.
Pretend they don't exist.
Wasn't Jon Favreau the best thing ever to happen to UFC, or am I confused?
He was the guy who did Iron Man.
He did UFC
and Cowboys and Aliens as well, actually, which was a pretty funny film.
You don't remember him in UFC?
He did Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh yeah, I like that. That was quite Daniel Craig, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Harrison Ford. Yeah,
I thought that was a decent, sort of fun movie.
Silly sci-fi western.
I must be old. You don't remember Jon Favreau in Friends when he was dating Monica?
Yeah,
I remember that he was in it. Yeah,
but he was in UFC, and that's
that was based on a real relationship that was going on at the time.
Was it?
Yeah,
didn't know
apparently
that,
it was.
but,
My wife is one of these like massive Friends fans. Watched all the DVDs and then watched all the special features and how did they write the stories. And they used to base a lot of the stories on like their own sort of friendship groups and stuff like that. And that was actually going on at the time. And they thought it was so funny they should make some episodes about it.
So Jon Favreau's been an executive producer on pretty much every Marvel movie going since Iron Man. He's that integral to all the Marvel stuff. Dave Filoni was responsible for the Avatar cartoon series and the Korra cartoon series, and has since moved on to Star Wars Rebels.
I didn't know there was an Avatar TV series.
Well, yeah, it's fucking brilliant.
No,
not the blue alien. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That ride the things that they're having weird sex with.
Tail sex.
No.
Yeah.
No. No. So
You're
that's
in
the
wrong
Avatar
universe.
film.
Completely in the wrong universe.
Hentai and the Smurfs.
That was a film. It was just a film with blue aliens that was like Pocahontas in space.
Yeah.
Avatar: The Airbender was a cartoon series over 4 series. Or was it 3 series? 3 or 4 series, and it was fucking brilliant.
Wasn't there a movie? I'm sure.
I'm
sure they made it into a movie. Yeah.
There was a movie. It was
Hollywood.
made by the guy who did the I See Dead People film. And it was a shit movie, and we pretend it doesn't exist. Just like the Star Wars sequels.
Yeah, James Cameron has apparently been building Avatar sequels, like the Blue Alien sequels now for like...
Yeah, films 2 and 3 are supposedly out next year.
Didn't he
year after
doing
I remember when the first one came out and he was still working on them. They're all getting filmed at the same time. Because, of course, like Matrix 2 and 3 was filmed at the same time and split in half, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan.
I'm sure it's going to be awful.
Yes. I mean, I don't know if you guys see the new Terminator movie, but with James Cameron, it wasn't the greatest, and I love Terminator. Yeah. I was very sad about it.
Anyway, we kind of diverged there a little bit.
Terminator finished with the second one.
Yeah.
So if we look at this as a general trend for missions, scoring and holding objectives is going to be less rewarding than it currently is, but there's going to be extra ways in a mandatory secondary that will allow you to get primary points that have been taken away from you that you would have otherwise have gotten by scoring primary objectives.
So how's that going to help? Like if we think back to, let's say, like a few of you guys obviously watched the game I played against Andrew on Monday with his 50 knights, and he kind of dominated the table. I mean, it's easy to dominate the table when you just add extra damage to your guns and you tell people that they're twice as good as they actually are, and then you play the entire game with them. Yeah. But let's put that to the side and say that he had 50 knights and he was holding most of the table.
So let's say you were playing this mission, yeah?
Yeah.
Going out and holding the points would have been marginally less rewarding for you, and you would have gotten more points for killing his shit.
Yeah. So in some ways, I think that's possibly better. Again, it's going to be better. It's going to be better for armies that don't have as much table presence, right?
I think this is definitely an improvement over the Scouring.
It might not be a replacement for the Scouring. There was another.
It might not. If it is, it's better.
But either way, I like it. I like that it's taking points away from holding objectives, because you can hold objectives and score points without really engaging the enemy. But these little extra mission things that they're adding into them, the extra mandatory secondaries, is, oh yeah, John is still hurt about that game, but that's because Andrew cheated like a bitch. I mean, it's undeniable. I like it. I like what it's doing. I dislike that it's adding yet more shit to keep track of during the game.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a thing that...
I remember when 3rd edition came out, and their big thing with 3rd edition was that 2nd edition had become so bloated and so convoluted, and there was so much to keep track of, they wanted to roll it all back and make something that was straightforward. And I liked it. And as the codex has come out and replaced the crappy index versions in the book, there was some jank and there was some stuff, and some people complaining, we took all the flavour out of it. But it had a point, and it made the game much, much faster. And I feel like when they made 8, it made it a bit faster, and 9th, when it came out, was a bit faster. But as these more and more of these things are coming in, it's slowing down and bogging down. And
did you take the GW survey questionnaire that they did a few months ago?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Did you notice how there was a lot of questions in there of, do you like stratagems? Do you think there are too many stratagems? Do you think there are not enough stratagems in the game?
I thought that was weird.
Yeah. Funny that.
Mm.
I made
I
a
haven't
video
noticed
on
yet. Do
that.
you like I'm getting use out of my books?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I'd just draw attention to the fact I paid £25 for these.
This is a step in the right direction. I would like to see more step. I think this is a step in the right direction. I still think we have other issues in the game right now, and we've talked about it before in this channel, like the absolute spam of mortal wounds that we've been getting in 9th, and I also think that we still have we have some other problems, but I think this is a step in the right direction.
Minus 1 damage going around. All of the armies that I play trying to avoid anything with damage 2, because I know it's going to get its damage halved so regularly, and I feel that that's a problem.
Makes sense. I like these changes for 2 specific reasons. And those 2 reasons are, one, as John has said, these are some steps in a good direction that will make the game a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more balanced towards balanced armies away from skew lists.
I think that's
the missions and the secondaries together.
That's the big thing for this.
The second reason why I like this is it's mixing up the game. It's changing it up. We've had these missions for a year? Over a year now?
No, not as long as that.
No?
It feels like a long time, actually.
A long time. Actually, it was sort of June, July-ish last year.
Hold on, Phil.
So,
Chapter 6 months.
Chapter approved 2021 had I don't think it changed a single mission, or it changed
You're right,
one
the missions
secondary.
were identical. A couple of the secondaries changed, but the missions were identical. You're absolutely correct. So we've had these since the start of 9th edition.
Since the book come out. Then and we got the chapter approved in June-ish, roughly, something like that. So the book's been around for 6 months. The missions have been around for a little bit longer.
So the shake-up and the change, I find that stimulating. I like that. I like that it's keeping away from being staid and unchanging and dull. And I think having to relearn this again in 6 months pisses me off. But for now, I'll take this change as a win.
Can you go here? This would be maybe the most interesting thing for me, and I mean, I always like to give my opinion, even if it's the wrong opinion. I'm doing a video tomorrow on mortal wounds that's probably very.
You're not making Dante great again and then putting the French flag behind him, are you?
No, I'm not doing something controversial. But thanks for just always reminding me of when I'm an idiot.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
I don't read the news. I don't watch television. I make YouTube videos.
Yeah, but you do know what flags are, yeah?
Anyway.
Moving on. How interesting would this be if, like in this example, the break them body and soul, imagine when you roll a mission, you roll the mandatory one as well from a pool of mandatory ones, and then you get to a state where, every mission, you get mission 2, but you get mandatory B or something, and that makes it even more...
To me, that feels like it's leaning into the old Maelstrom.
A little bit, I suppose.
I would like that you would have to plan your list to take care of multiple objectives and multiple criteria. I dislike the fact that I would have to plan for all those different things. Oh my god!
I think you run the risk of homogenizing lists if you do that. Because if you have to plan for every possible opportunity, you very quickly start running out of options.
So James Fisher suggests we get a dense cover video from
John. Yeah, okay, you guys can do a dense cover video for me. And Pedrog says we should get +1 VP for every axe in one's army, which I kind of like.
Pedrog. I hate you.
Axes are the best choice.
Yeah, but you get -1 VP for every tactical marine you put in your army.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, the mission change overall seems positive. Secondary change
is positive.
Would you consider, John, playing one of these 2 new missions on Monday on your live game?
Colin and Andrew have already been playing the new missions, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. So,
I mean,
is that a no because you're worried that they've got more experience than you and you'll lose again 2 weeks in a row?
Well, I mean,
or you can have a rematch against his cheese.
I think we'll have a rematch against his cheese when his
cheese of the week.
I don't. The amount of times Andrew's done that to me in games now is ridiculous, and this is why Andrew doesn't win tournaments, because if he just stuck with one army, he would know his armies really well. He doesn't even know how much he doesn't even know how much damage his guns do. How the fuck is he ever going to win a tournament, right? It's like me rocking up to a tournament and the guy goes like, "I'm going to shoot you with my squad of bolters," and the guy's like, "All right, how much damage is that?" "I don't know. Let me check." "Oh, it's 2. What? Bolters are 2 damage? I'm pretty sure. Aren't they 2? You know, like I like Andrew, and I actually think he probably could win a tournament. Like, he had that really good sisters list, but he just won't stick with it. He just.
Well, yeah, he had that pretty good Custodes list at the beginning of the time. I know you beat it in the second round.
There's that.
That was a decent list.
Too. There's that bit in that Man 2 where they says you put a dime in the jukebox, you got to let the whole song play out.
Yeah. But yeah, so. Do you know what? I could see if Colin would be up for playing one of these. He probably is. He's made his new Death Guard army. I think I'm going to retire at least one of my Volkite Contemptors this week. I don't dislike them, but I'm actually going to complain about them in my video tomorrow. So if you want to watch a video about me complain about units that swing too hard, I think. Well, they're fine. They're not great in competitive play, and that goes for everything. You know,
that's your tactical choice to include them or not, though. That's not a fault with the data sheet.
No, but I don't think it really. I don't think it's a. You know, like, so we're in the situation now where the rumor is Relic Contemptor's arms are going to go up 35 points, right? And
I mean, it's so mental, it probably will happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'd be really surprised now if they don't go up 35 points. But like. One of my thoughts on this was like, what if, right? Think about your Relic Contemptor. What if the wording was changed so it's like, if you make a single hit roll out of, you know, because it's heavy 8, so you got to shoot at one target. If you make a single hit and a successful roll, you do 1 mortal wound, or even you could do 2 mortal wounds. But like, make it. I think this comes back to what we talked about, where it was like, you have units in this game now that can do 10 mortal wounds. I believe there's a Grey Knight Psyker that can do 20 mortal wounds in a psychic phase.
We talked about him in our OP bollocks.
Yeah, he's not likely to, but he can. Yeah,
so, he's unlikely to, but he technically could do 22 in a single turn.
So why have we got a 100-point model that can do 22 mortal wounds in a turn? Like, should that not just be normalized? If you're trying to, I get that maybe the competitive scene isn't. You know, like, there's probably. If you break the hobby down, right, there's a lot of people that paint. Like, let's say there's 100,000 people that paint, there's 20,000 people that play, and then there's like 10,000 people that want to do competitive. So competitive is probably the lowest like demographic. Like, least people can care about really competitive play. But at the same time, like, I would argue, any time you teleport a Psyker into someone's army and you do 20 mortal wounds to them, where's the fun? And that's going to be my question. Have we got more slides after this, or are we wrapping up?
I think that's
the only thing that I've got after this is just our generic sort of like holding slide that we use.
Okay, so let me ask you guys both a question. You play against a new Tau player, or any Tau player, after they get their codex. They're rocking like 3 hammerheads and a storm surge, and they roll hot in turn 1. How much fun are you having in that game?
None. But that's what it was like in 8 when we run during the old Triptide with the 1,000 shield drones list.
That's my question. Maybe, like, why have we got things that are so swingy? Like, I would prefer if things were more normalized, I guess.
It's a dice game, and they want to put a bit of swingy in there because sometimes it's nice to come back from that one game where the last guardsman in the squad kills the Terminator. It's cool that it can happen. If you normalize it too much, it'll end up being so rock, paper, scissors that it will be StarCraft competitive. So I do think you want a little bit of swingy. I don't personally like swingy units, but I'm happy to take a more reliable unit that's perhaps has a lower damage output.
I'll buy your argument that swinging units might not be costed correctly. But then the argument is if you cost them too high and they roll shit, then what are you doing? You're making a tactical choice to bring them. If they cost them too low and you bring them anyway, then too many people are going to take them because they're too easy a return on investment.
Yeah, no, I just
decide how much of the risk you want, basically.
Yeah, which is fine enough. I mean, but at the same time, like, I think there's already enough swing in there with like armor saves and ballistic skills.
It's nowhere near as swingy as that one orc gun that rolls its strength based on a D6 or 2D6.
They got rid of that, didn't they? Because it rolled all of its stats off, and it just took fucking forever to roll it.
Yeah, that's true.
But
The mecha shot cannon from last edition, yeah.
Yeah, the thing I don't like is anything that takes away agency from your opponent. So if you've got a list that can wipe out your opponent in turn 1 before they've had to do anything, and there's nothing they can do about it, that's a problem. Mortal wounds can fall into that camp a little bit if you've got ridiculously high, some crazy Admech flyer where there's nothing you can do about it. You can't fight back, you can't well deploy, you can't use some clever tactics or anything
Terrain
like that.
is a good leveler though in that, because let's say even if John replayed his game against Andrew on Monday and Andrew still cheated, if that big strip of dense cover in the middle was obscuring and it blocked line of sight, that would have been a completely different game.
Potentially, but it doesn't help when you can drop your psychers in and do 22 wounds. There's nothing you can do about it. Or the flying bombers that ignore terrain. And I think that's where the problem is. It's when you remove agency from your opponent to have anything they can do about it, and then they're just sitting there while you have fun and they're not.
Given what GW did to that Orc list that did successfully turn tournament-winning players and kick the crap out of them turn 1 from a guy who hadn't won tournaments before. I'm not saying he wasn't necessarily a good player, but the way GW nerfed the crap out of that list pretty quickly tells me they don't want lists that can do that in their game. No, if they accidentally or mistakenly write them, then they'll come out in a tournament pretty quickly in the wash, and then they'll get nerfed.
I think certainly some of them have.
Yeah.
We have seen a little bit of a hit back from some of the more excessive lists. Drakari is still absolutely running away with it at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen about that. And that will probably last till Tau come out and they'll be broken, or Eldar come out and they're mega broken. But
I have Orc models. They're Orc planes in Aeronautica. I don't own any Orc. I own one Orc in 40k. It's a single Orc model in my little collection of one model from every race in 40k across that shelf there.
I've got that fancy special edition one they released somewhere that I haven't painted yet.
Yeah, Rez, I totally agree. It would be nice if GW rules writers, having been doing this for God knows how many years, might have figured out how to actually write a balanced codex and release it so that it wasn't busted in the first place.
I actually disagree with that, because they released the Space Marine Codex and that's not busted. They released the Necron Codex that was very nicely balanced against the Space Marine Codex, and then they fell off the deep end and started doing all sorts of crazy shit. So they can, and they have. I'd even argue the new Custodes Codex.
And it all goes horribly wrong in the next release or within a few months.
We complain that the Blood Angels Codex is weak. I don't think it is. I just think that it was balanced, and there's a lot of stuff that's come out that's not been balanced since then.
Do you know what? That's a really interesting point you make, right? Because like when the Sisters Codex came out, I'm definitely on stream on record saying like I thought the Sisters Codex was very strong. We've talked about it before, the three of us, and said the same thing. Like, if you compare the Blood Angels Codex to the Sisters Codex, we think the Sisters have a good codex, right? Maybe like 10% better than Blood Angels or something. Like, it is a pretty strong codex. And we don't necessarily think it's overpowered. We just thought it was really strong. And then the rumor is that like a bunch of Sisters, like Morgenval's at 15 points, such and such. Like, so we thought their codex was strong. They're now getting hit by possible point increases. So where does that leave us with like some of these other armies that like are, I
think they do write some very balanced codexes. The problem is there's been a couple that have been totally broken and they haven't quite figured out how to fix them, and that's meaning if you turn up with a balanced codex or a balanced army and things like that, and you're against things that are totally broken, then you've got a really bad day. And it makes you feel like your codex and your army is really, really weak. I don't think it is. I just think that there's a few broken things out there that emphasize the fact that ours is maybe a bit average, a bit.
You've got a point, Rez. Should be in the middle. Got a point, James. Mugen, you've got a point as well, but it's a point that I share. But I also think that's a bit conspiracy theory. Even I think I think that a little bit too much.
Are you going to tell us what it is? Because remember, I can't see the chat.
That's your problem. Mugen says that it sells more boxes of stuff when it comes out broken, then you nerf it and people buy the next hot thing. Which is a valid conspiracy theory.
Right, I'm going on record with this. The other week when we recorded, I said that they intentionally released the rules for this just the gun, saying how good it was. So they'd sell out all the old 3rd, 4th, 5th, so on and so forth stock because nobody's bought these in years. And when they're all out of stock, they're going to re-release it for about 5 or more than the current kit is.
All right.
They've just released it, new box, after they all sold out, 5 or more than the old one.
Here's a question for you. What would be worse? Would it be worse that GW did that deliberately to sell more boxes? Or would it be worse if they didn't predict that?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Do you think they deliberately did that in order to generate more sales for the Hammerhead? Or do you think they didn't think that would be a thing?
I reckon they probably did to an extent, but at the same time, they are a business. Yeah, we've said before, on record, 9th edition is the best edition of 40k that we've ever played. And I think we all stick to that. And whilst I'm a bit cynical, and I did call that, and it did happen, I also don't really begrudge it either.
You are right, Science Dad. It is a shame that Tony can't see the chat and will never see your exhortation of undying love for him and his alcoholic taste. It is a shame. So, oh well.
I think...
Don't buy that.
I don't think they... do you know what? I think they just make... They make some of the new codexes strong because of codex creep, because they've made the previous one strong.
They've done it for years. It hasn't changed.
But
this is why I think
not all the lower codexes have been that strong.
Yeah.
Drakari come out a while ago, and things that have come out since then have not been stronger.
Okay, let me ask you guys.
We have this discussion over and over.
Yeah, let me ask you guys one more question then on that, because we could talk about codexes weak and strong for forever. Would it be better if just codexes were digital and rather chapter approved doesn't just update points cost, chapter approved actually updates data sheets?
I'd happily pay for a subscription that gave me all the current rules, and then if they released every couple of years a new fluff book which had nice pictures and interesting stories and all the fluff content from each codex, and they just released, I'd buy that happily without any hesitation.
How much would you pay
for what?
That subscription? £10 a month?
Yeah.
15 a month? 20 a month?
I'm paying a £5 at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'd pay another £5, I'd say, for getting the basic core rules.
Next
I'd probably pay 15 if it started to put a little bit more value in the...
Some people like having paper books in their hand.
Yeah, I do.
Would you like to do that to the exclusion of all else?
What, to the app?
Yeah.
No, I'd just like to separate the rules so they can be updated from the interesting, cool stuff with all the pictures and the stories and
but
all that
shit. If the rules are all updated online, then people who like having books are missing out from them.
No, they just buy the books. The books still exist, but the books are focused more on your crusade and your more interesting things. And the online is your kind of tournament, competitive meta, updated, balanced stuff.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Tournament players are a source of money because we will buy whatever the new book is that's got the new rules.
Yeah, but tournament players are arguably the most invested. I think what Tony makes a point in that. I've had the Blood Angels Codex. People have literally asked me, will you make a video on the Crusade stuff in the Blood Angels book, which was released it was December, so
it is a popular request.
13 or 14 months ago, and I'm I haven't. The second I get to that bit in the Crusade in the Codex, I'm why are these fucking pages in here? I just want to rip them out.
Skip over it.
Yeah,
you do get the biggest number of people. Now I'm making a gross generalization based on my own experience, and I appreciate that. But the biggest number of people whilst they're not playing fully hardcore competitive, they're not quite playing fully hardcore narrative either.
Maybe.
And they're somewhere in the middle. And they do like their books, and they play with their mates, and you play over your kitchen table, you play in the Games Workshop store and that. And I do think sometimes we get a really focused view because we're constantly tracking the tournaments, and we
get a very narrow view. You're absolutely right.
I think the majority of people they like reading. I still do it. The reason I've got so many Codex books, even for armies that I don't own, is I like sitting down and really enjoying all those stories and all the cool models and reading about all the different hosts and chapters and all of that crap that's actually not really that relevant for whoever it is currently winning the meta, who's just wants those rules.
The GW app does get updated with rules changes and FAQ changes, points changes.
Yeah, it does. I don't like. I don't.
No. The army builder is often buggy as fuck.
Yeah.
The actual rules in the app does
It's
get
missing
updated.
some. It's missing core rules, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, it bugs me, for example, that the secondaries are not in the app.
No, and sometimes I can't remember, some of the armies will be missing things like chapters or shield hosts or like core rules and things like that, just not in there.
Hmm.
You know,
that's just really annoying.
I was watching a video the other night on iPads because I was wanting a new iPad, and my thought is like the guy said in his video, like your phone is kind of a consumption device, right? If you think about your phone, you usually consume content on your phone. Fair enough, some people use apps or whatnot, but like I would rather, like, if I'm going to do work, I'm usually in front of a desktop or an iPad, right? Because like you can work a lot more efficiently on these devices than you can on your phone, and I guess that's what I would really like. I use Wapedia all the time. If that was an official GW website that I could have a login to through my Warhammer portal, and in these quarterly reviews or whatever they're starting to do now for the competitive scene, if they could think about, you know, some of the units that are just not anywhere in the meta and update data sheets as opposed to points costs, then we could really actually see like a much more healthy...
Yeah, I really think there's a place for both.
Yeah. But I mean, that's another conversation to have. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about on Secondaries?
So GW won't buy all these apps because these apps are not obliged to sell to GW. They would have to accept GW's offer. And Battlescribe, for example, supports... It's a framework for any game system that wants to publish on it. Yeah. And GW is one of many...
Yeah, I used to subscribe, and I still own a license to one that seems to have died, Army Builder, which used to be a Battlescribe competitor, and that seemed to have died a couple of years ago. And that was really good, really, really easy to use.
Reziel, you're totally right. The 40k app needs an accurate Army Builder that doesn't have the odd bug in there, and it properly works with trying to put the relics on and the warlord traits on and the upgrades on and what they enable, what they don't enable. It needs to work.
One that caught a few people out the other day.
And the remaining 10% doesn't work is shit.
Yeah, one that caught a few people out the other day is Mephiston as the chief librarian. That means that you cannot upgrade another librarian to the chief librarian, but you can in the app.
Oh, can you? Okay. Okay. Is there anything else we wanted to see on secondaries? Primaries?
Yeah, we've been going on for an hour and 40 minutes. Is anybody else in the chat got any questions to ask relevant to all of this, rather than sending off another tangent, because we don't want to go on?
I was going to say I got like 5-10 minutes before I got to go to bed.
Tony's all out of beer, and he came in.
I've totally run out. I've actually even finished the horrible.
When are we going to get an army building on Battlescribe info video? Probably,
if I'm honest, probably never, because I'm pretty sure that Battlescribe's developers are more or less dead now, and
they
it's being maintained only by the community.
Yeah, but learning how to build a list on Battlescribe, I'm not sure it's worth a video. It might be when we're drawing content. Tony, what was the worst beer?
It's a toss-up. This was particularly awful, the marshmallow one. But I have to say the mango one was quite bad as well. I'm leaning towards the marshmallow one. If you've got to have one of the terrible beers, go with the guava. I'm still not sure what a guava is, but it wasn't the worst of these three. It was probably the best of these three.
Is it guava, but not like an avocado, or am I wrong there?
You're wrong. No.
I'm not sure. The only thing I can remember is that, do you remember Boost chocolate bars?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have with guava written on them.
Okay. Then I don't know what it is.
Pedro, you're absolutely right. You can have a chief librarian that isn't meth, but you can't have two chief librarians in the same list.
But you can on the app, which is why it's broken.
When is the next live? We have no idea. We have no idea if this was going to be a success at all. No. So
when something else interesting happens that we want to do a live stream about.
But it's worthy of a live stream, yeah.
So, this has been a great success. We've had like 40 something viewers the entire time. We're sitting at 45.
So, I don't know, in another month or two, I imagine when the new chapter approved comes out.
When the new chapter approved comes out, we'll definitely do one. If something big dramatic happens or gets released, I think we'll probably do one.
If GW get brought by Hasbro next week, then we might do a live stream about that, for example. But
but it will just be a live stream of me burning things. We are looking at doing some painting live streams. We've just got to sort out some logistics. Because John, look at him with all his pro gear over there,
There's what
like
come out of
cameras and all
Ireland.
this shit. And here's us I'm using a GoPro. Mark's brought a proper camera. But yeah, I've got a GoPro and a mobile phone. So it's a fancy phone, but it doesn't really stand in for a proper one.
This is like 10 plastic crackhead streams worth of people.
Yeah.
You said that.
Where's your...
Oh, shots
Screenshot
fired.
that, somebody.
Oh, shots fired.
when,
But yeah, so
does what
we will
come
be
out
doing
again,
some
Highland?
painting
What are you
live
asking
streams,
about?
but when we work out how we're going to do it.
But yeah, I mean, we are trying to grow the channel. If you enjoyed tonight's video and you'd like to see more, you can subscribe. I think we have a video coming out next week, right? Next
should have a
Thursday.
video
We
coming out
do
next week.
pre-recorded videos every 2 weeks, and we're going to do live streams as and when we want to around them, basically.
So if people have got ideas, please let us know of things they want us to cover. Remember, we're really focusing on this channel on the things that aren't just Blood Angels. So if you collect other armies or you're interested in other armies or things are getting released that you think could be interesting, let us know and we'll take a look at it. And if we feel that between us we've got a little bit of the ability to talk about it, we absolutely will.
So, for example, we're all Blood Angels. I have a side grade in Raven Guard. I've got an Imperial Knights army that I haven't used in ages, and I'm looking at getting heavily into Craftworld Eldar. Tony, what stuff have you got?
What do I play? So I've obviously got the Blood Angels, but I've also got some Thousand Suns kicking about. I've got a lot of Custodes kicking about. There's a few Black Templars kicking about. Grey Knights are kicking about. Knights are kicking about. Sisters. I've played Sisters since 2nd edition. And yeah, I'm just a massive shill. I just keep buying whatever crap they put out. So I reckon I've played, even in previous editions or between previous editions, I think I've now played every army significantly that they've ever released.
And John is Blood Angels, Star Wars, and Hero Quest.
Yeah, you could see, I've got every single Imperial Assault expansion.
We could do a D&D stream. Should we do a D&D stream? Do you reckon there'll be a thing for that? I can see Mark as a hobbit.
D&Ds don't have hobbits, do they?
I will shoot you.
You got
They
two
have
universes.
They have halflings, which is the inspiration of Hobbit,
Yeah,
Mark's
Mark's
doing it.
I've got Sigmar as well. That's another thing that we do.
We have
Did we do something about successor traits, or we did discuss something about successor traits? I can't remember.
We only lightly. We haven't really dug into them yet.
No, and we have a video coming out next Thursday as well that has already been pre-recorded, correct?
Yeah, but I can't remember what it was.
Is it not Chapter Command?
Oh, it was that, yeah.
Yeah.
So next...
So yeah, Chapter Command upgrades. That's for Space Marines in general rather than Blood Angels, because Blood Angels can't take proper Ancients. Not that any of the Ancients are that good.
I'm really impressed I remembered that based on, I got 4 hours sleep last night. So
I'm quite impressed you remembered that.
I'm taking note that as a win. So yeah, next Thursday, 8 o'clock on this channel, so about 2 hours earlier than this
That's
live
8
stream.
o'clock GMT for anyone who is not British.
And that's the time zone, not the ITV television channel show that goes on in the morning. Does that still exist? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
So I think, on that note, I think it's about time for us to wrap up. Unless we've got any more questions in the chat, but I wouldn't know.
No, I think we're good. We're just talking shit, which is awesome. Oh, what about a tier list for both Chaos and Xenos factions? We don't really know them well enough between us all yet, so...
We are going to look at some of them. We've talked about doing 1,000 Sun ones
term.
because John and I know them. We're mostly, between the three of us, know the Imperial factions more. So I think the next tier list will be another Imperial faction. We're still arguing about which one we're going to do.
Grey Knights, Custodes are on the hit list, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we did say that we were going to make some tier lists in the future. That was the plan.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, Tony, do you want to round us out, and we will catch you guys next week.
So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for joining in. Thanks for asking questions. Not that I could see them. Hopefully nobody died if they were playing the drink along game. I saw what Dex was planning on drinking. Join us next week. We will be in the chat for our premiere of the next episode. It is quite a good one. Although I would say that, wouldn't I? I'm wildly biased. And like I say, if you've got any comments, anything you want to talk about, any questions you want to ask, stick them in the comments. We do read every comment. We do reply to every comment. And See you next week.
We will put a link up to the Discord somewhere.
Yeah, it's already in the video description. So if you refresh
Brilliant.
this page, you can join us on the Discord. And great, thanks again.
Thanks very much.
See you guys soon.
Toodles.
Cheers, guys.
Peace.